Hey everybody, today we are going to be discussing a film from 2022, fairly recent, that has become a favorite of mine, especially around St. Patrick's Day, and that is Martin McDonagh's Banshees of Inisherin. Now, I saw this movie a year after it came out because I tend to not want to watch movies that have a specific vibe or theme or holiday. And not that this movie has a specific holiday, but it is a film that takes place in Ireland, or an island off Ireland, funny enough. So I want to make sure that I got the full experience, as I am, as I always say, a seasonal movie watcher. So the following year, I think it was 2023, I watched Banshees of Inisherin around this time of year. And man, did this movie become one of my all-time favorite classics. It is completely original.
Call him Sonny Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
Who says we're not?
Sit somewhere else.
And when you hear the name Martin McDonagh, you think of originality. Films like... He is a classical writer. His dialogue is smart. His dialogue is witty. His stories are unique. One of my favorite films of his was 3 Billboards, and it's a very similar vibe. Completely opposite cultures, but they are unique, they are original, and they are hard to define when it comes to the genre.
How's the despair?
Not so much of it of late, thanks be.
And why aren't you talking to Pádraig Sullivan no more?
That wouldn't be a sin now, would it, Father?
It wouldn't be a sin, no. But it's not very nice either, is it?
The Banshees of Inisherin, and unlike many other Martin McDonagh's films, has humor, exceptional humor, has sadness, has darkness, has violence, and it's just an all-encompassing, all-genre-flowing type movie.
Jesus, Colin. Did it hurt?
Hurt awful to begin with. Thought I was going to faint.
And I love that because at the end of the day, what do we want? We want good stories that have good characters that are engaging and interesting. Doesn't really matter if it's a horror movie. Doesn't really matter if it's a musical. Doesn't really matter if it's a comedy or a drama. And yes, we all have our specific wants or specific genre favorites. But when you take a movie like this and you just throw it all into one big stew and cook this awesome story, this awesome script, and at the end of the day, this awesome movie, you are just, you are a master when it comes to your craft, in my opinion.
And you can tell that skitter of a son of mine, he better be home by tea time, or it's over the pat of the both of you'll be, and your dreary feckin' sister. Oh!
So this movie basically follows Pádraig and Colm, played by Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. 2 amazing actors who really, their chemistry in this movie and the way they bounce off each other and the way all the subsequent characters bounce off through them and the way everybody's connected is top notch. Colin Farrell basically plays I don't want to say incompetent, but a naive, happy-go-lucky simpleton who has his pet donkey as animals and lives with his sister. And he's friends with, or at least we believe he's friends with, up until the beginning of the movie, with Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, who is a more cultured Irishman who lives alone outside of this small village on this small island, on one of the Aran Islands that this movie was filmed in. The visuals are beautiful, and we'll get to that. But basically, he is a man who's in his older years, not older years, but he's getting up there, and he's much older than Pádraig. But he has decided in the beginning of this movie that he no longer wants to be friends with Pádraig. And in the opening scene, you have Pádraig walking on this dock with this beautiful rainbow and this naive smile on his face, and everything's amazing, everything's beautiful. And by the end of the film, we learn that that beginning shot or sequence really juxtaposes where things go. Now, Colm tells him, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Pádraig can't stand this and wants to know why. And this just leads to a catastrophic chain of events that, in the end of the day, I believe is a metaphor for Irish grudges or grudges people have with one another, especially in Ireland. I am half Irish, so I do understand somewhat of the culture, the references in this movie, the things that they try to hit on, the humor, the family ties. It's all there, and it's fantastically done.
Ladies.
Oh, it's Pádraig. Pádraig always has a rake of news. What news have you, Pádraig?
News, is it? Fella killed himself, or Ross Muckway. Walked into a lake for himself. 29 and nothing wrong with him. The fool.
So the driving point of this movie is that Colm, after constantly being nagged by Podrick through the first quarter, I don't know, say half of the movie, eventually has enough and says, I just don't want to be friends with you anymore. You're boring and you're dull, and if you talk to me again, I'm going to cut my fingers off, or one finger per time you talk to me. And, at first nobody believes this. They all think it's metaphorical or whatever. And we as the audience would be like, yeah, there's no way, even though, it is part of the story. And lo and behold, he starts to cut his fingers off. We go from this beautiful Irish scape, peaceful, people living on an island, to, wow, this guy is cutting his fingers off. This other person's depressed. This other boy dies. The sister wants to leave. Podrick becomes the antithesis of who he was. And there's just so many mechanics in this movie at play. It is a brilliant watch. It's almost like a play. And I would say Martin McDonagh's movies are written like a play, but a play for the screen. We can start on the visuals of this movie. The visuals are stunning. It is Ireland. It is the Aran Islands. The Aran Islands are an island that were completely barren. They were completely made of rock. All the grass was brought in there over the years or the generations, and they've created these small villages. So the running joke is that these people live on an island off the coast of an island in Ireland. And Podrick loves it. His sister wants out. Colm is bored. Now, I will say that also this movie takes place during the Irish Civil War, where the early 1920s. I think it only lasted a year. But the backdrop of the mainland Ireland across the water, where there's explosions, there's shooting, and I guess that is also the metaphor that I was referencing earlier. So you have brothers of the same culture shooting each other, and now you have these friends that are just shooting each other metaphorically till the end.
You do like me.
I don't.
You liked me yesterday.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
Aside from Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, you have Kerry Condon, who I think probably should have won the Oscar, even though I think the Oscars don't really matter anymore, if they ever did. They did have more prestige back in the day, but they have completely watered down into awarding movies that nobody really watches anymore. Anyways, aside from Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, you have Kerry Condon, who does an extraordinary job playing the sister who wants to leave and get off this island and get away from this dull life. And eventually she does leave, and it's kind of depressing because Podrick just can't read the writing on the wall.
And I hope I'll see you again someday. If you ever come back home.
Come back home, Siobhan.
Which is sad, and that's why I think Martin McDonagh's movies are so interesting, because there's really bleak, dark moments in them, but with the humor really softens everything. And I think the majority of this movie is humor, a very specific humor. Not really so much situational humor, but I guess so. It's so unique. I really can't express, what type of humor it is from my own viewpoint, because there aren't other movies or writers that really tap into this type of style, which makes it unique. And like I said, completely original. In the opening scene, when the drone shot is flying over through the fog and it opens up to the Aran Islands, or the island that they live on, in Inisherin. It's a made-up island, but it works. You have a Bulgarian song playing over it. And I know it's a Bulgarian song, but it works when it hits Podrick and the rainbow's behind him. And I keep bringing up this opening scene, but it really is amazing how McDonagh added this touch in the beginning of like pure cliche happiness. Here's Podrick, just completely naive. There are so many aspects of this movie that I can go over, and I really don't want to litigate the entire plot or summarize the entire plot, but it's a highly rewatchable movie. It's funny, it's scary, it's dark. The acting in this movie is impeccable. I mean, Colin Farrell is just an amazing actor. I think he's one of the most underrated actors of our time. I know he's in a lot of stuff, but people truly don't appreciate this man's ability to just disappear and become his characters. Brendan Gleeson, phenomenal. Kerry Condon, what a turn. She was amazing as Podrick's sister, Siobhan. Barry Keoghan as Dominic, incredible. And all the supporting characters, from the priest to the people in the bar, to the people in the pub, to the people in town. It's just phenomenal.
He has his pint there, Colin, from when he came in and ordered his pint before. Oh, okay. I'll sit somewhere else, so.
There's a specific scene in this movie that's very minor, but it encapsulates a lot of the humor. Podrick comes in to talk to Combe. This isn't like the middle of their spat where Combe just wants nothing to do with it, really. I think this may be before he cuts a finger off, where Podrick's really pushing him to his limits. But he grabs a little telescope in Combs' house and just like zooms in on his face. And I don't know what's so funny about it, but it's hilarious and it works. And it's little idiosyncratic moments like this which really bring the movie to the comedy genre. But like I said, in the vein of the Coen brothers type comedies, it's very dark, but it encompasses a lot of genres. And by the end of this film, things have taken such a turn of violence and darkness that it ends up in a place where I don't know if these two men can rekindle their friendship, but I do believe they have come to an understanding.
Haven't had any rifle fire from the mainland in a day or two. I think they're coming to the end of it.
I'm sure they'll be at it again soon enough, aren't you? Some things there's no moving on from. And I think that's a good thing.
And I'm not saying the interesting dynamic between Colm and Podrick is you understand Colm somewhat not wanting to be friends with Podrick anymore because we all know somebody that we can take in doses. We all know somebody that's our friend, but we really can't stand. The problem is on an island like this, you can't get away from them. So he has to make the drastic decision to please just stop talking to me. But as the film goes on, Colm becomes kind of an a-hole. Like, what are you doing? Are you really going to push this to the limit? He obviously really misses you, but your whole, I'm cultured, I'm not going to be able to write a song, or I'm not going to be able to do the things I want to do as I'm getting older because this guy's holding me back. And it kind of exposes Colm, and I think Kerry Condon, Siobhan, Podrick's sister, calls him out on that at some point. And that's just one interaction. And all the interactions in this movie are phenomenal, whether it's the priest and Colm discussing what he's doing, whether it's Dominic's father and Podrick and their spats, whether it's the bartender in the pub that's discussing things or analyzing things. And the music is phenomenal in this movie. It has a haunting tone to it almost. It goes from happy to very mysterious to haunting. It's a movie you really don't want to end because, like I said, you just fall in love with the characters and the location and everything about it. It's a cozy movie, but it's also a cold movie. And as I said before, the lighting and everything is just top notch. And aside from the plot points, this movie has a total vibe, and that is Ireland. The way the homes are lit, the way the pubs are lit, the way the island glows green, everything feels like Ireland and feels like authentic Ireland. My wife has been to Ireland 3 times. I've never been to Ireland. My mother has lived in Ireland, and they say to me it's just spot on, completely spot on, from, like I said, the lingo to what they're eating to what they're doing to the lifestyle, even if it's from the 1920s. But all in all, I will say the Banshees of Inisherin is a great watch around this time of year. And even if it's not St. Patrick's Day, you don't have to be like me where you watch movies seasonally. You can watch this any time of year, and you will not regret it. You will laugh. You will maybe cry. You will look away, and you will have a great film experience. And I will say that Martin McDonagh's The Banshees of Inisherin reminds me of a very old school film where story becomes first, and cinematography, acting, music, all of it comes together and creates a beautiful work of art. And at the end of the day, filmmaking is the ultimate art form, and this one truly is a gem.
What do you need from him, Colin, to end all this?
Silence, Siobhan. Just silence.
One more silent man on Inisherin, good-o.